Mom, thank you for joining me to yet again another podcast that we both do together.
Although, I like how you've learned.
Yeah, I have to like put those things. Mom, thank you for inviting me to my podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, just thank you for taking the time to sit down to enjoy this conversation that we are having together.
Wow. Okay. So if you are listening to this, it's Monday, and Monday I am actually not here. I'm in the other side of the country in North Carolina, surprising my best friend for his baby shower.
Yeah.
Which would be really cool. So it's funny because I was talking to his wife like back in December, and I was like, dude, how funny it would be if I just like showed up at your baby shower. She was like, good, do it. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I had about $1,000 of airline credit, and I was like, yeah, sure. So bought a plane ticket. I leave tomorrow. A mutual friend is picking me up at the airport, and we're going to surprise my buddy at his baby shower.
I think that's so cool. I mean, just the relationship that you and X and your friendship is just amazing. And I just love how Brandy has just kind of,
she's totally like in it.
Yeah. She's just like, it was like such a natural, adding to that friendship.
Yeah. It's super cool. Like, it's super cool that she was like, yeah, you should totally surprise him. And then I was like, yeah, I'll totally fly out. And it's just cool that we've got a common interest. And it's just, we just both love X. Yeah. She loves him differently than I do.
Which is good.
Yeah. But it was great. So yeah. Which is really fun. So last week, Mom, you talked about dressing to make you feel more confident.
Yes.
This week, we're actually going to tag team this topic, and we are going to talk about this one. Now, this one came straight from the recommendation of a listener.
Yes.
And Mom, do you want to ask the question?
Yes. So the statement was, or the request was, yes. And she wrote, may I make a suggestion for a podcast in case you ever run out of ideas? Maybe there are others that feel the same way I do. I'd love to hear you guys chat about having and or managing a social life without drinking alcohol. I am a non-drinker and everyone I know drinks, even my husband. I'm finding it difficult to find and have a fun, fulfilling social life with friends who don't drink.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Yeah. Did you want to start off on it, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and touch on it. So in this episode, before the previous ones, we had done more like research. So we were like, oh, this is the research that we found. These are the articles that we read. This episode's gonna be more strictly like our personal take.
Yes.
And my personal take on this comment is that it's very difficult to, find common interest, because it wasn't until I got sober that I realized that every single activity that I had been looking forward to, it revolved around alcohol. So
right.
the alcohol was the epicenter of every activity. So like I would go, we rented a hotel to do something. I was excited to drink at the hotel.
Right.
If we went to a concert, there was drinking at the concert. If we did like a sporting activity or something, alcohol was usually at the forefront of every idea.
Right.
And so it's really hard to now be sober to kind of like share that same level of activity with, those people who have alcohol being the center of the you
Right. So now let me ask you a question. Yeah. So the friend group that you used to do these activities with have, you have since you quit drinking done things with them, like Johnny's baby shower, his wedding shower.
Yeah, I've been to weddings, I've been to bachelor parties.
How did you feel being sober back into the scenario with these people who used to be your drinking buddies?
It's a lot like, the best way to put it is be a lot like visiting an alien world, where you're a lot like, it's like, like in those horror movies, like when there's like the people are like under the hypnotic daze, and then all of a sudden somebody like hits their head or something like that, and then they actually see everybody's no longer the people they looked like. They were like a different version, or like monsters or something. And that's kind of how I kind of interpret it. Like when I go hang out with people, I'm always a little bit more guarded. I find myself where I'm always a little bit more like, I'm not on edge, but I'm always a little bit more reserved.
Right. So now, did you find any instances where you were participating in activities with your drinking buddies? Did you find yourself getting triggered to drink, or was it more of like a reflection of like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I don't drink anymore?
Yeah, it's the latter. I mean, I definitely still get triggered with alcohol, and there's definitely triggering moments, but it's not like, oh my God, get that away from me anymore. It used to be. Right. It used to be like that, because before I used to not trust myself enough to be around alcohol. So I would just eliminated any social interactions that involved it.
Right.
So before you kind of like gain more self-control, and you're kind of more of like, oh, well, I'm already X amount of years in, I've learned to be okay around it.
Right.
It's challenging. It really, really is. And it's a weird thing, because being sober is a good thing, right?
Right.
Not abusing alcohol or substances is a good thing, until you're around other people who are abusing it, and then you're like, oh, this is really hard for me. And so it's this weird, because it's like you're winning in life, but you're kind of losing in the moment kind of thing.
Right. Because I read this comment a couple of days ago, so I've been reflecting on it for a while, and my take on it is this: it's like people have the misconception that you can't have fun if you're not drinking.
Totally, yeah.
And I look back at like when I was drinking and hanging out with friends, I was volatile. I was not a nice drunk.
Oh, I was the worst person.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that this morning.
Yeah.
Like I'm not who I was when I was drinking, and who I am now are completely different.
Yeah. I was getting in fights.
Yeah. I was, yeah.
And
I should have been in fights.
Yeah.
For the way I was acting. I should have got my ass kicked.
Yeah. And a couple of times people would like instigate to watch me go over the deep end.
Yeah.
I was like a party favor.
Yeah.
And looking back at it now, for however many years I have a sobriety, I can easily say that, I have more fun being sober than I ever did going into a social environment with alcohol.
Sure.
So you have to kind of get rid of that equation of like, well, if I'm not drinking, I can't have fun.
Yeah.
You actually end up having more fun.
Yeah.
But you have to find your comfort level of what you're comfortable with.
You mean like in terms of being around people who are drinking?
Absolutely. It's like when you went to go to the baby shower and the wedding shower, you have to make sure that you go to these functions in a level that you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And like for me, I can go out to a winery all day long and never want to drink a glass of wine.
Yeah.
I put one foot into a casino and I double over.
Sure.
So I stay out of them.
Yeah.
You couldn't drag me into a casino. So you kind of have to gauge your sobriety comfort zone.
You mean, I think I understand what you're saying. So you mean like put yourself in a position where you win.
Oh, absolutely.
So don't go to some place that would be difficult for you to stay sober at.
Exactly.
That's fair.
Because I think another misconception is that we don't have the right to say no.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, a group of friends, we're going to go to do this, and this. And sometimes you feel obligated. You're like, oh, well, just because, I shouldn't say no just because I'm not sober.
Sure.
But I always say that your sobriety is more important than anything else.
Yeah. Well, like our therapist was saying that because we were addicts, we have a hard time saying no.
Exactly.
And, that ability to say no transitions from saying no to drinks to also saying no to people and in situations. So, like it inherently is very difficult to say no.
I find it is easier to say no when I have to choose between a function and my sobriety.
Sure. Yeah. But like also too, like as somebody who is over 5 years sober,
yeah,
you've learned enough to, and also too, I mean, we're not as social now than as we were when we were drinking.
Yeah.
And so to touch back on this comment, right? Like how do you have both, right? Like how do you keep your sobriety, and how do you handle being around somebody who is drinking?
Well, I say for one, I mean, number one, starting right off the gate, you have to pick your functions that are comfortable with you.
Yeah.
So give yourself the ability to say no.
Yeah.
For example, I can't do weddings.
Okay.
Weddings trigger me. I mean, I can go to the ceremony. I can watch somebody get married, but when it comes to the reception, I cannot physically go. So
for example, when we go to Ken's, you just want to do the ceremony?
No. Because you're going to be with me. You
mean by yourself? Mm-hmm. Okay, because you've been to wedding. Now that I think about it, you have been weddings where you tip off after the
usually
ceremony.
I dip. And you know what? And truthfully, even with Ken's wedding, if it gets to be too
yeah,
triggering,
if it gets weird, yeah. But Ken doesn't really drink either.
No, he doesn't. And you know what? And the thing is like it's so weird. But what triggers me is there's always that one girl who's just pounding the alcohol. You could tell that she's like not happy, and then that just it. And it's not like I'm going to pick up a drink. It's just I don't like remembering me.
Yeah, it's more of a reflection of who you were. Mm-hmm. That's fair.
Yeah. So then another thing I recommend is like, let's just say you're going to a function and you know that there's going to be drinking. I say go armed with your own drink that you like.
Yeah, because the hard part is not having something in your hand. And the thing is too, like if you have a non-alcoholic drink, like let's just say, I mean, I used to do Martinelli sparkling cider, sparkling cider. And you know, that kind of eliminated that need to have something in my hand. And also too, it makes you, you know, I don't want to say fit in, but it makes you,
you're
more
not
sticking out, right? So people are like, hey, how come you're not drinking? You have a drink in your hand, and that eliminates the peer pressure of needing alcohol.
Yeah.
And if you just like strictly just don't drink, I mean, you're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
You know, but if you like us, for somebody who is addicts or are, you know, addicts, can you close your lid? That's going to drive me crazy.
Oh yeah.
You know, it is hard to not have something in your hand.
Yeah.
But I also too, I've come to find that like whenever I go places and I'm not comfortable with, I always try to find somebody else who's not drinking, because the chances are you're not the only one. And if you are the only one, there's only like 5 or 6 people. And then again, you know, you just kind of have to pick and choose your battles. So generally, like if you're at like a party or a function, there's somebody else who's not drinking.
Yeah. And also too, I mean, like Austin, we've had conversations with Austin. He drinks non-alcoholic beer.
Yeah.
You know, it all depends on your comfort. I'm not comfortable with that.
No, it's too close. The line's too blurred.
Yeah, it's too close to home for me. But you have to find your own comfort level and then stay within that. Because again, I see my sobriety as almost like my protective shield.
Sure.
I'm always, it's always an option. Starting to drink is always an option. You know, I won't do it because I feel like I have my little shield up.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I think the exact opposite. I think of my sobriety as like something I have to protect.
That's what I'm saying. So I have my shield up because I have inside my little bubble is my safety zone. And I stay within my, you know, so like a comfort level of being at a wedding, you know, I'm perfectly fine saying like, hey, I got a dip.
Yeah.
You know, I protect my sobriety.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say.
You were like, I use my sobriety as a shield to protect me. I'm like, oh, I think of it more of like, it's something I have to protect. And you're like, that's the same thing I just said. And it's not, but I understand the principle behind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree with you. And it's actually really interesting. My buddy Black Arrow, he actually just hit a year sober. And I remember him texting me around this time last year saying that like, dude, I can't stop. He was like, my drinking's got out of hand. He was like, it's ruining my life. He's like, it's ruining my relationship. It's ruining everything I do. And I was like, dude, you just gotta do it, you know, one day at a time. And he's actually hitting a year sober. I should probably message him. I acknowledged it, but I should definitely send him a text message. Be like, dude, I'm really, really proud of you.
Yeah.
Cause it's hard.
Yeah.
You know, it ain't easy.
So now let me ask you this on a little, so we said, just to recap, we said, bring your own drink. Yeah. You know, find us a sober buddy.
Yeah, or pick your battles.
Pick your battles.
Pick a function that you know you'll be okay with and comfortable with not drinking, or being around people who are drunk or who are drinking. Yes,
and work on that. It's okay to say no.
Yeah.
You know, it's okay to say, I'm sorry, I can't make it. Now, on the other part where, you know, her husband still drinks.
Yeah.
Now, when you quit drinking, I still continue drinking for a year.
Yeah.
We were in the same house. So that's a different perspective than what I have. Is there any sort of like, maybe like tips you could give her on that? Or,
you know, when it came to you drinking at the house, I definitely did. I'm going to work on my health before I worry about yours. So I kind of was like, well, I can't do anything to fix her. So I have to lead by example. And I basically was like, well, you know, I can only be responsible for myself. And I couldn't change you and I couldn't fix you. I can only show you what it's like to be sober. And then maybe hopefully you caught, you know, kind of inspiration and, you know, thankfully you did. So when it comes to that, I think I don't think you can really put those restrictions on other people.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're like, oh, well, I only want you to drink, you know, 2 beers, you're only allowed this amount. If you put these restrictions on people, and this is me just speaking completely hypothetical,
right?
Because I'm not in a relationship, nor am I in a position where I would put these restrictions on people. But I think that would harbor a little bit of resentment.
Now, let me ask you this. Let's just say hypothetically, you quit drinking.
Yeah.
Your spouse continues to drink,
Yeah.
even though that they know that you're on a sober journey.
Yeah.
Now, if your spouse is triggering you, don't you feel like at that point you could be like, instead of being like, don't drink, you just be like, you know what? I need to go home. I'm going to get an Uber and go home.
No, I think, I think it starts way before that. I think it starts if I'm in a relationship with somebody, if I'm in a marriage, or if I'm dating somebody and their drinking is hurting my sobriety, I'm just gonna be like, hey, listen, your drinking makes me uncomfortable, or like, hey, I'm perfectly fine going with you, but if it gets to this point, I have to, I'm
going to go home.
Yeah. And it's not like an ultimatum, but just know that I'm getting uncomfortable. So I will have to remove myself from the situation.
Yeah.
And hopefully that they're involved enough in the relationship to be like, oh, well, I want your presence more than I want this drink. Mm-hmm. And so your presence is more important to me than me getting drunk. And then I would hope that my partner would choose me over that.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about compromise, right? I can't force somebody to not drink, and I can't force somebody to like adhere to my rules, because that's not what a relationship is, right? It's more of like, hey, I feel uncomfortable when I'm around you when you've had too much to drink. Mm-hmm. So if you choose to drink, which is your option, just know that I will, I'll just, I'll either drive separately, or I'll meet you at home, or, I'm going to do this, but just know that I feel uncomfortable, and hopefully that they respect me enough as a person to be like, oh, well, I don't want that outcome to happen, because you are more important to me than what I put in my body.
Yeah, that's got to be, and even though that you lived at the house, I think it would have to be really hard to have a partner who still drank,
because I'm sorry.
But and I think, like, again, it's not really, now let me ask you this.
Sure.
Or I'm going to say a statement. You tell me whether or not you agree or not. But I don't think it's so much the responsibility of the spouse, but maybe the person who is, getting sober, to maybe just be like, hey, here's my guideline. Here's, I really wouldn't even say guidelines, because you can't go in to be like, here's my ultimatum.
Yeah. Here's my line in the sand.
Yeah. But here's my comfort level. I'm comfortable in these situations.
Yeah.
And then I'm not comfortable in these situations, because I'm trying to give her like a real good, like some useful ways.
It's hard, dude.
It's hard. Yeah.
It's really hard, because it's like you're on quicksand. Or it's like you're like trying to like jump through little patches of lava, and the lava is just it's such a minefield.
Yeah,
because you can't be like, well, you need to stop drinking because I'm sober now, or else you're that's not going to work out. You can't be like, oh, well, you're going to stop drinking because I stopped drinking, because that's not going to work out. So I think it's a lot about communication.
Yeah, it's just it's getting sober is a milestone. It's not easy,
and
it's
easy and hard.
Yeah. So I just, I guess sometimes I think the biggest thing is just to speak up and be vocal.
Yeah. That's the biggest thing too, right? If they don't know, they can't improve, or if they don't know, they can't do anything about the situation. So it's more of like, oh, well, that I don't feel comfortable when you drinking more. And so if you choose to do that, this is the reaction that, it's completely normal that I'm going to feel like this.
See, and I'm going to go out on a limb, and I don't know anything about the friend group or anything like that. But if your original friend group was based all about drinking, and if they are anything less than supportive, I would say find a new group of friends.
I don't know, because I have friends.
But they don't try to shove alcohol down your throat either.
They have. They've tried.
Really?
Oh yeah, they were like, "Come on, just try one," like, or whatever. Like, or are you ever going to drink again? There's definitely that pressure. 100%. There's definitely that pressure to like, oh, you should just drink, or like, yeah, why don't you have a beer? It's like, it's one beer or something like that. That pressure's still there.
Yeah.
But I've come along enough to be like, no, that's not how this works.
Right. Yeah.
So.
And then that's just the whole thing. It's like, again, it's like, I don't know. I guess there's more levels of this.
Oh, yeah.
But the most important thing at the end of the day is you as an individual, your sobriety, and the simple fact that you have a voice.
Yeah. And that's really ultimately what it is, And I think, you are just as important as the people around you, and you're and your mental well-being is more important to you than anybody else, right?
Yeah.
So, and it, like, if you're going to be in a situation where you know you're uncomfortable, let them know in advance. Be like, yo, this is, this is too much for me. I just, right now I don't want to, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe, you know what, and I didn't join AA, but maybe if you are feeling pressured with your group of friends, maybe go and join an AA group, so that way you have people who are like-minded and you're not the odd person out. Yeah. You're more in a group of
you have a sponsor.
Yeah. You know, you have people of like-minded path. And then when you're around the other group of people who are the drinking people, maybe you can be like, well, I have my tribe, something like that.
I have and that's a fantastic thing. And I think I really do love AA, and I love the people around it. My friend, who I can't, obviously I don't want to say any names, but he still drinks, but his wife used to be an addict. Yeah. And she is now sober, and she was able to become sober through AA. And it's very interesting because he still drinks a good amount, but she's completely stone sober. And so I definitely do think that AA helps a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And maybe that's how she is able to stay sober for so consistently, even though he does drink in the house. I got to tell you, when I was getting sober, I was so proud of myself for not doing it with AA. Oh, it's awesome. But looking back at where the journey I've been on, I think I would have understood a whole lot more had I have gone. Even if it wasn't for helping me not to drink, it could have helped me understand why I was doing the things I was doing. Well, also too, it makes it feel like you're not alone. They look at it less as like an illness and more of just like, okay, you've made it to the next level of life kind of thing. Yeah. And I love the program. I thought it was really cool. I met a lot of really cool people. It's a very judgment-free zone, and it's a very inclusive atmosphere. It's really, really nice. And they have jelly beans and cake there. Yeah, how can you go wrong with that? I'm always a big advocate of AA. Yeah. And I think too, a really important thing, and I know I touched on this sooner, but really important is the simple fact is that just knowing that you can still have more fun being sober. Yeah. Again, it's the whole ideology and it's the whole misconception that you're going to just sit there and, be sad. And that's not necessarily the case. The alcohol isn't what makes it fun. Yeah. It's letting down, it's just about letting go and having fun, and you just look at life differently. Yeah. I think that's the big takeaway, because I'm thinking back on the bachelor party with X, and there was drinking there, but it wasn't centered around drinking. Yeah. People had drinks, but it wasn't dependent on anything. And I'm thinking back, and if there was ever a point where I was uncomfortable, and I really don't think it was, because the bachelor party itself was centered more around the bachelor than it was drinking. Whereas, it was a different kind of vibe. Yeah. Whereas I have been at bachelor parties where drinking was the centered theme. And so I think it's really important to pick and choose your battles. Know the people you're going with, and like, is this an event where I'm going to enjoy myself? Is this an event where I'm going to have to put my guard up? See, and that's just the whole thing. It's like, to me, it's like two different scenarios. Again, like kind of like that whole, like, I'm just going to go to a bachelor party where it's just like everybody's going to drink until they pass out. Yeah. Or you're going to go to a bachelor party where people are like, hey, you know what? This is really about the bachelor. Yeah. Alcohol might be a part of it, but it's not the main focus. Yeah. And if you're in a situation where your friend group is the whole focus is on drinking, just drive separately. And just be like, I will stay until I can't stay. Yeah, you stay until you're uncomfortable, and then after that, you're like, all right. I mean, I always just dip. You know, whenever I go to some place, I always just like, I don't go by, and I'm just like, all right, peace. And people, if it's like centered around drinking, or drinking is a big thing, people won't even know you left. Yeah. People are like, yo, what time did you leave? You're like, I was the last one to leave. I said goodbye to you. They'll be like, oh no. Yeah, I don't know. You're like, I lost track of time. Like, you can just totally dip. I do it all the time. Yeah. And like you say, you pick and choose your battles, and pick and choose places in which you're comfortable with. And really just communicate with your partner. I really think those are the biggest takeaways, and just know that, like, obviously you're not alone when it comes to things like that, because there's a bunch of people that are sober. There's a bunch of people with a bunch of different reasons as to why they don't drink. Yeah. So it's not you're by no means the odd one out, or you're by no means the weird one or the strange one. You're just one of many.
See, my sobriety is my badge of honor. I think it's my superpower.
Is it?
Yeah, because I never in a million years thought I would have the strength to get sober.
I was telling Black Arrow today, and I said every day that I've been sober has been like a fresh start of life, because there's a lot of instances where I should not be alive, or there's a lot of instances where I could have ruined my life in a permanent manner.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was able to restart and stay sober and treat every new day like a whole new life. I have a brand new fresh start. And in order to be lucky enough to get that fresh start, it's been a phenomenal thing.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to see who I was when I was drinking and who I am now. And you would never recognize the two.
No, not at all. And, in a complete transparency, I do want to apologize for putting you, for not getting sober sooner. I should
probably really clean this water bottle.
Huh?
I should probably really clean this water bottle.
Is it a little funky?
It tastes kind of like a fish tank.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I should have, there's 101 different things I could have done to be a better mother.
Yeah.
But, we can chalk that one up to one of them.
Yeah, but there's also just, at the same time, it's also life experience, who I am now as a person was all a direct result of who I was before. And if that's what needed to do to put me on the path that I am now, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, but I still think it's important to acknowledge it.
Yeah, it's important to acknowledge it, but it's also important not to dwell on it.
Oh, no, also, no dwelling.
Yeah.
Nope. You know what? Dwelling doesn't do anything but make regrets, and regrets makes depression, and that's all. No.
I'm perfectly fine with who I am. I'm perfectly fine with what happened, and I'm perfectly fine with, where I'm going.
Yeah, because I was just in my mind while you were talking, I just kind of switched the scenario around a little bit. Yeah. Had I have quit first and you had kept drinking, I don't know if I...
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah. And I would like to think I would have been strong enough for both of us, but I cannot with certainty say I would have been.
Yeah, I don't know.
So kudos to you, young man.
I sure heck can try.
Yeah. So, I hope I hope that this helps, and again, I think really just doing the whole NA or AA, just knowing that you have a support system is really important.
Yeah. Or just knowing, developing clear boundaries and communication with your partner. It's really hard. It'd be unfair to your partner if you did not tell them your comfort level or like what's going on or what you're thinking, and expect them to jump on that and like act on that behalf, even though they had no idea.
Yeah.
Because we don't really know. We're just kind of painting a scenario, but the partner may not even know that the drinking makes this person uncomfortable. Yeah. And hopefully the partner respects you enough to acknowledge those conditions and acknowledge those feelings and be able to work with it together, because that's what a relationship is. It's two halves to make a whole.
And if they don't, you need to have enough tools in your arsenal to combat that. Meaning, like, let's just say you go to your partner, you're like, hey, you know what? This is my trigger. Yeah. And the partner's like, I don't care. I'm going to keep drinking. Yeah. Then you need to have tools to combat that.
Either remove yourself from that situation or, do some other things.
Yeah. Bring a journal. Start journaling. And I remember when I first started getting sober, I wrote down in a journal everywhere I went.
Really?
Yeah. And I look back on it, and it was just a jumbled mess of this and that. Yeah. But it got me through it. Yeah. It just, again, and I keep on saying AA, but for me, it's really, for never even been to one meeting. Yeah. In reading that book, Addictive Thinking, I realized how important it is to understand why people do the things they do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I say.
I like it. I think we did good. Hopefully we did good.
Hopefully. Yeah. Hey, we're all like, we did so good.
Yeah, we did. We high five
we
this.
We nailed that one.
Take that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Mama, thank you for finding this comment. And thank you for whoever wrote this comment.
Yes. And I thank you very much. I guess we could say her name, but
no, it's okay. Yeah.
But thank you. And thank you for everybody who listens and comments.
Yeah.
We get a lot of positive comments on this. A lot of people enjoy our conversations.
Good.
So I think that's pretty cool.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, do you want to tell them where to find us?
I do. And first I want to say have a safe trip.
Thank you.
Tell X and Brandy hello. Give them a big hug from me.
I will.
And you can find Robert on Instagram as Robert Pike. He is on Twitch, TikTok and YouTube as Sherbert.
Yep.
You can find me everywhere as Gray Hair and Tattoos and my little itty bitty travel kind of blog, Emotional Baggage, on YouTube. All right, everybody.
Awesome.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.